Well, good evening and welcome to the Draft Professor. This is our Buffalo Bills draft show with Owen Randall and the Big O, Jerry Ostrowski. Jerry, it's been a few weeks. How was Daytona?
Daytona was awesome. We had a really good time. We got down there. My younger son and I went down, and then we met a couple of friends down there. And then the other cool part about it was my son's girlfriend plays softball at Texas A&M, and they had the Big Clearwater Shriners Hospital tournament down there, where a bunch of the top teams from the country come in and they play like a huge round robin. So we got to watch her play like 4 or 5 games. So it was a very good time. We had a really good time with it.
She plays for Texas A&M softball.
Yeah, so she was with Oklahoma State for 4 years and graduated from there, and now she's getting her master's at A&M for her last season. So she's down there. She's a first baseman, power hitter.
Very cool. You know, I obviously being next to Razorbacks, I'm a big softball and college baseball fan, and I was watching the Shriner Showdown for Arkansas.
Right, it was good. Good stuff.
Okay, and we're here today to talk about the Buffalo Bills cornerback room. We're going to mix in a little bit of free agency and then a lot of draft prospects that we like at corner. I consider corner to be a huge need. Buffalo only has 2 players under contract with experience. One's Hairston and one's Benford, and Hairston's experience is limited. He didn't even play a full rookie year. But, Owen, how do you look at the Bills' cornerback room right now?
Yeah, I think this team is known for, and maybe this is a Sean McDermott thing, and this might be something they start to struggle with, but this team has always been known for they have guys at the top, whether it was Trey White in the past, now Christian Benford, their guy there, and then making investments when either they need it or when they just pick guys in the randomly in the end of the draft towards rounds 5, 6, 7, and being able to find players that are contributors on NFL rosters, like between corners that they've drafted in the past who are still around, like Dane Jackson, Christian Benford was a 6th-round pick, Teron Johnson was a 5th-round pick, Rashard Wildgoose got some run for the Giants, I believe. Austin Allen is the guy's name, the corner for the Patriots that we drafted in the 7th round or 6th round a few years ago. Just a bunch of guys that in years past we've been able to identify and bring in NFL level talent. So for me, having those 2 guys on the roster, I think you have your top 2 guys confirmed. Max, from what he showed this past season and going back to my draft evaluation on him, I'm pretty happy with what we're getting from him so far. And I'm excited to see those 2 as our starting 2 corners. Luckily enough, even depending on what happens with Teron Johnson, this defense doesn't run many 3-corner looks, except for like if you want to cut the slot, but you can operate with a bigger guy there a lot of the time. So if you're more confident in the safety, or there's a lot more versatility at that spot. So having this team invest in corners, I definitely is going to be a need for this upcoming offseason. But for me, I think the current corner core, the 2 guys, makes you excited, and you're looking to fill the depth now moving forward.
Yeah, I think in free agency and then the draft will be a small tell on what they feel about Dorian Strong's progression. Because I do still have hopes out for Dorian Strong being able to play, at least contribute, and be in camp or anything along those lines with his neck surgery. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. I know that the most important thing about it, obviously for his rest and recovery, is being the contact sport. I'm not sure if the doctor will tell him it's a risk or if he shouldn't, but it sounds like Dorian Strong's going to try and get out there.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, obviously. And then you got to look at, where do you go from here? I mean, you've got a new defensive staff. You got a new head coach, even though he's a guy that was here. You got to figure there's different theories and things like that. But I do think that Buffalo has a couple of guys that they can do some things with as far as not getting too crazy. One name we've talked about, and, Trey White's still sitting there. You don't have to have him come back and start. He can come back and mentor and be on the bench. But I think one thing's for sure with what we saw out of Hairston this year and the fact that he seems to be a bit maybe fragile or at least unlucky, they're going to have to do something at corner to help with the backup situation and or maybe possibly a starter.
Yeah, I think it was Joe Marino that pointed out that Buffalo plays their 3rd cornerback as a starter a lot.
Right.
Right. Like it doesn't really matter which group it was. I think every single year Buffalo has had to have its 3rd cornerback start what feels like about 5 to 8 games every year.
Well,
So-
hopefully
Yeah,
the
yeah.
new regime gets better on those injuries that they've been talking about for the past week.
Well, I don't
Even-
understand. I don't understand that. By the way, I think. That's,
Oh yeah, me neither.
I think it's ridiculous. I think that whole thing is a sham. I think that
Yeah.
whole deal that's coming out about the injury situation. Everybody's been there. They know what's going on. This
Right.
isn't like Brandon Beane doesn't know what's going on in that room.
Right.
So I have a real issue with that. I think that's nothing but a cover up. They got to figure some things out.
They haven't talked about
Mine
the
was more
power
of a joke.
lines going through Orchard Park the way they are in
Yeah.
San Francisco.
That one I might be able to get on board with. Jared, what's your take on that?
They have 21st century infrastructure in Buffalo right now. I didn't know they did that. I mean, I thought that was only out in California. So, no, seriously, in all seriousness, I don't know, man. I don't go down that rabbit hole, fellas. I went down that rabbit hole. It's a bad place to be, and it's bad. You end up in spaceships and aliens and all kinds of stuff. It's just a bad place to be. So take my word.
Sometimes
for
I
it.
like to take that trail.
Yeah, don't go down that trail, please.
So, Jerry, where are you on, like, let's say the age of a corner? Do you like bringing in like a rookie as the 5th or 6th corner and then just replenishing the room that way? Or are you more along the lines of we're a playoff team, we need to get guys that can come in week 1 and be ready?
Your lifeline of your football team is your draft. You've got to bring talent in. You've got to constantly be able to evaluate, bring young talent in, and develop it. I mean, that's how you get through these things. That's how you deal with the salary cap, everything in general. I mean, this game has become too violent. The attrition rate's too high. You've got to have guys sitting there ready to go. I don't think you can just bring a bunch of veterans in and say, okay, we're going to be fine. You've got to continue to bring in young talent. So I think a couple of them are fine. I always believe in that because they can help with things and mentor and stuff like that. So I said earlier about Trey White, I think he's in a good position to be one of those guys, but they've got to bring talent in. I think really why we're talking about this so kind of with so much emphasis and energy about it is, and it's what Randall talked about earlier, nobody expected Dorian Strong to be in this situation. I saw him as a 6th-round pick as a steal. I thought he was a guy that was rated a lot higher than where he went. And, the Bills actually, for all the negative connotations we've heard about Brandon Beane lately and this and that, and as far as the draft goes, that was a really good pick. And then all of a sudden he has the issue. Now, the one thing I will say is this, fellas, I don't know if there was something there that maybe teams knew, and that's why he did slip to the 6th round. I don't know. I haven't heard any of that. But I do know I think that's a steal at 6, but then this happens and we got to figure it out. But no, I'm Jim, I'm with you, man. You got to draft young talent. You got to get guys in the building that can develop, and you're playing on those rookie contracts.
Yeah. So, Owen, as you look at like a Jim Leonard defense, what kind of corners do you think Buffalo would be looking for in the draft?
Yeah, you're going to be looking for this defense is going to run a lot of single high safety. So you're looking for a lot of guys that are going to run a lot of cover 3, being able to play at deep thirds or some press man and off man. Players on the outside, longer, taller corners that are going to be able to get hands on and run with guys, flip their hips and run upfield. All zone coverage eventually turns into man coverage. So you need guys that are going to be able to have that kind of that skill set, but even more so in the defense, I think is going to be a bit more aggressive when it comes to those trends. I know they started getting that way last year. So you have guys in Benford and Harrison that should operate well in that. And when Strong comes back, I do think he should be good to go for the scheme as well. I do think that you need to look for more players that are going to be traditionally more man-oriented or have more high athleticism skill sets, whereas in the past with the Bills and they drafted guys, it was a lot more of the Trey Whites, the Dane Jacksons of the past, where it was high IQ, be able to read offenses, understand route concepts, be able to pass things off and be in the right spot without being sucked out of your zone and then make plays on the ball that way. I think they need to go and get players that are going to be more accustomed to some of those deeper zone drops and man coverage techniques, whereas in the past they've kind of shied away from that.
So, Randall, any corners that you're looking at that meet the description of what Owen just gave?
Yeah, I'm kind of when I was looking at like the day 3 corners and what kind of would fit and what Owen was talking about, I'm kind of in that little, like, kind of how Dorian Strong fell to the 6th pick, in that by the low dip in these guys. And I'm not sure where everybody has them, which, of course, my laptop's not working right now. But somebody like Will Lee III, Domani Jackson, Thaddeus Dixon, Dalen Everett, guys like those that could be available in day 3, who had a good, promising 2024 that was semi-surprised that they decided to stay in school into 2025, and then kind of had a little bit of a regression, but you still see the traits that they had in 2024, is something that I think that Brandon Beane will look for and covet to see if you can get him back. Just like Dorian Strong, how he was a steal in the 6th. Deion Walker, you looked at 2024. He based it on the 2024 tape instead of the 2025, stuff like that. So maybe guys like that are day 3 buckets that are in a buy low situation, but you saw good flashes of them throughout his collegiate career.
See, and that's interesting that you said Dalen Everett day 3.
Is he not day 3?
Say that again.
Is he not?
Well, no, and that's where you have him. I've heard plenty of people that like Dalen Everett higher than that.
Yeah.
So I'm chuckling. But Owen, what's your grade on Everett right now?
I'm on the borderline, so I know that some people are very high on him. I have him as a high day 3, so like borderline round 3, round 4 grade. So I'm kind of straddling that line. I do think that I can see what people are seeing in him that make them want to push him up the board. But for me, there's some limitations to his game that I like. A lot of these guys who I was able to get eyes on, either from last season into this season or from just watching it this season and watching games later on the season compared to earlier on, you'd see some progression. I just need to see more of that with Everett specifically, because there was some stuff that I didn't see him evolve and adapt to that some of those guys that previously had shown the ability to. So for me, he's still in the prove it to me camp, but I do think I'm more higher on him for the upswing area.
Everett's more of a zone corner, is he not? More of a run support type corner. I mean, I don't think he's known as a big man guy, is he?
Yeah, out of that bucket, he would be the more zone guy in it. He can run. He can run man and zone. He kind of a little bit reminds me of what Dorian Strong was like shaping up to be, which he can be as well. So he is more of a zone. I still think he can play man. My issues for him is just kind of inconsistent decision making and some bad angles. He gives up a lot of yak, so that's kind of where I put him in the day 3 to be a boundary corner, play in the boundary, and a lot of just bad angles on hitches that leads to a bunch of yak.
Even with where I'm at with the corner room, I think you have to add a veteran to be in competition, at least for the CB3 spot. And then when we're talking about these day 3 guys, so even if an Everett is in day 3, you're banking a guy who's 6'1" and is going to run fast. So that way you can bank on some of these athletic traits that maybe they're not the cleanest fit, but you're looking for a guy that is going to come in. If you coach them up right, they can compete for that CB3 spot. If not, they're CB4, basically take a redshirt year, or it's just added depth. So even like an Everett who maybe is more inclined to be in that zone area, you'd be willing to go with that. And similarly to a lot of these other players that we're seeing that have, like, if you're clearing those athletic and length thresholds, you're going to be able to play man to some extent, because you can just turn and run. If you can bump and run with the guy down the field, you can have some kind of place there. The problem with what was going on with the McDermott defense and why they would both have super good success with later round picks, but also struggle with some of the early round guys, is because a lot of times those early round players are like a Kyrie Elam, drafted on athletic traits and raw talent. Whereas the guys they would end up drafting that would work out were because they were lower athletic guys or just smart, would have to be that way to make the NFL. Right. So that defense prioritized that. This defense is going to be a bit more aggressive, and you can bank on some of those guys with higher upside that maybe aren't the cleanest fit or aren't the most polished prospects that can come in and play. And I think you just need to have some more insulation. And the fact that our top 2 guys are in place is good, but the fact that they both have injury histories is not so much, which is why I'm like, invest a little bit in free agency, especially towards a veteran that could maybe push just be the CB3, but then get guys in that are just like, look for athleticism, look for guys that you can grow within your system, but not requiring to be a starter super early on.
You know, and one of the other players that Randall mentioned is what I'm calling everybody's favorite day 3 corner this year is Domani Jackson from Alabama. So what we had 2 cornerback podcasts when we were doing scouting reports. Everybody came back day 3 on Domani Jackson, But Randall, I remember about 15 months ago covering Domani Jackson with you last year. We were like round 1, Domani Jackson.
Yeah.
He goes back to school, and he's now fallen to like round 5. So,
Right.
Owen, where are you and Domani Jackson from Alabama right now?
Yeah, I had a round 3 on him coming out of the summer just because he was a guy that he's super athlete. You want to talk about a guy that is going to be able to win and win with athleticism, and it shows up, especially when he's out on the boundary. I do think he didn't take the next leap and that next step. So you are still looking to get more out of him. But for me, I'm banking on a lot of the athletic traits of athletic talent and looking for a guy that still may plays for a team on the highest level stage. So I'm still a big fan of Domani Jackson. If he falls to the 5th, I'm all over that, especially for kind of what I just laid out with if he's not going to be asked to be in your starting rotation right away, I'm happy with him coming in and banking on some of those traits you've seen previously.
Yeah, I think he's going to run the fastest 40 for a cornerback. I think he might test some of the wide receivers in that fastest corner. And I agree. And he did take that step, but he's so fast. And he did get benched this year for the rookie in Alabama, which DeBoer said he handled very well, accepted the backup role, which is probably very hard for kids about to go to the NFL draft, accepting that. He said he took the backup role really well. The issue that he got benched for was because of his run support and his tackling, cleaned it up, and then ended up getting to start the last 3 games of the year. So he earned his job back maturely, good head on his shoulders, and then ended up finishing out strong. So I am also a big Domani Jackson guy.
Okay. Any other corners? Like Randall, I dropped a bunch of day 3 corners other people are talking about, but I don't know if they fit the profile that you and Owen gave for the Jim Leonhard defense. So feel free to drop any of those names. I know one corner that
I want to know about Devin Moore is what I want to know about. I mean, you're looking at a 6'3" guy that's 198, big physical guy, shows athleticism. Again, another run defense guy. Coverage skills are good. Why does he slip to a day 3? When you look at this size and everything, it's kind of, you would imagine that's kind of, what you're looking for. Am I not right?
I think you're accurate. So
I have him as a day 2.
The film is day 2, but the injury pedigree is day 3.
Okay, injury. So he's got injuries. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a long kind of a laundry list of injuries there.
Jerry, do you have a snap count in front of you for Devin Moore from Florida?
Yeah, I do. 2025 coverage snaps 268, defensive snaps 556. That's over half up. That's double of what he did in 24. Almost more than double. So definitely double. 30 targets, 17 receptions.
I think the issue is back problems, right? He had back problems, and then that's kind of big with the NFL with back problems and concussions mixed in with shoulder. So I think it's just kind of like all in that upper body, and I think that's what deters people away. I still have him as a late day 2. I think people run with it because of the tape. So, I don't think Buffalo takes him in day 2, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I think if he's there in day 3, they would take that swing. I think you're willing to take more swings with the state of your quarterback room. Again, you have some level of insulation, and depending on what you do in free agency, you can take bigger swings with the moves you make there. Some of the guys I like, and I'm going to be a bit of a homer here. A pair of corners that I do like for the system is going to be the 2 Washington corners that I watched previous this year, which was the Davis and
you are predictable, Owen.
Yeah. So the drop off. I remember when Zakario Davis was in the preseason or the out of the summer, he was getting first round hype.
Yes,
he had a phenomenal season in 2023 at Arizona, where he had like 15 or 16 passes defensed. This year he did deal with an injury that limited the amount of games he played. He did end up having 2 interceptions and 4 passes defensed. Another guy, 6'4", isn't going to run the fastest. I don't think his athleticism is going to be a lot of what you get. And that's going to be one of the snags, I think, for what's going to make him fall a bit and why it's not like the cleanest projection to what I've been trying to say. But the fact that he is phenomenal with his length, and he showed phenomenal reps as a deep cover 3 corner and improved some of that man bail technique this year at Washington, the games he did play. I do think he's a guy that you can bank on some of that higher pedigree he had coming into the year. He's going to fall because he didn't play as much this year and didn't take that next step that everyone thought he was going to take. But a guy who has good ball skills, and has length, is just a giant guy in the corner and can play boundary. Who I do think you can get in that earlier day 3 and be happy with, especially if he's going to come in and be competing for CB3 spots. But for me, I'm probably going to be the highest on him is Ephesians Prysock from Washington. Another guy, 6'4", 195. He played a unique role for their defense where whenever it was an unbalanced formation and they had a wide receiver out wide on one side of the formation and then it was a tight or closed off side of the formation on the other side, he would roll up and be the high post safety, whereas Davis would flip over and mirror the one receiver, and then Prescott would come over and be the high post safety and come down and defend the run from there. That's where he kind of makes his money. Is he's a good run defender, very physical, both in run defense and when he's up pressed up against the line of scrimmage. He has a really good two-hand jam on the line, can reroute guys. And then tackling and run defense, I think he really showed out. And even in some of the one-on-one Senior Bowl reps, you can see that he's a lot more comfortable as a man corner than a zone guy. A lot of reps, especially in like the Ohio State game, you saw him struggle with understanding where he should be in zone or playing off a quarterback and get out and scramble. But when he was asked to mirror match, he can bump and run with guys like Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith and be physical and not allow them to get separation at the stem by using their bodies, which I watched the Ohio State game for Prysock, and then I watched the Ohio State game for Malik Muhammad, and it's night and day. Like, these guys want to throw their bodies around at receiver, and one of them gives up 3+ yards of separation because of that, and the other one just blankets them, and it has this extreme length. I think he's going to need it to improve his ball skills and zone coverage instincts to be a starter. But for a guy that you want to come in, maybe be a special teams type player and be a depth guy that you can trust to go out there and make responsive plays in defense. And if you're going to be more aggressive and want to have a guy who can run and man, you can do a lot worse for a day 3 corner than a Prysock there. So I'm a big fan of him, especially for this defense. And obviously Tacario Davis banking on the upside from previous years.
Where do you have Prysock? I have Prysock in the 6th. Or do you have him higher?
I have him, round 4/5. He's actually, I have him and Davis.
I like Prysock. I agree.
Yeah, I have him and Davis pretty close together in grade, but for different reasons. Davis is more coverage over run defense, whereas Prysock makes all his money in the run defense and tackling.
I think it should also be pointed out that the corner class, like when we were going through scouting reports, the overall conclusion was if you want to draft a CB2, this is a really good draft class to get a CB2, whether it's a CB2 that starts immediately or a developmental. Like, you're not going to find a Sauce Gardner here in this draft class. Like, there might be one guy or two guys that fit that profile, but there's a lot. And I believe Ian Cummings had 40 draftable grades on corners. Clint Goss also had about 42 draftable grades on corners. So, like, even if Randall says he's got a 6th on Prysock,
still solid.
There's still a lot of corners ahead, and a lot of these are just going to be scheme fits.
Yeah. I agree.
Jerry, what do you mean unpredictable?
Let's just draft the whole damn Washington Husky team. We'll just call it a day, right?
Yeah, there you go.
You know what?
Hey,
I'm not opposed to it.
Give me Jonah Coleman. I'm in.
Denzel Boston, Jonah Coleman, both corners. We're set.
I think we're talking about these corners. My question about, I think something's going to be interesting to watch is we know that McDermott was such a systems guy. He was really, really technical with his corner play, really technical with that secondary. Really curious to see what we see out of this next staff and Leonard. Do these guys, is it more let them play? I think it'll be more that way. So I think, it probably opens up the door for, more corners to be available, because I think McDermott's secondary was very specific. I think the amount of prospects that fit into his system was much smaller than what we'll see out of this group.
Yeah, I think that's what widens the range there, where you're going to see them want to take swings on earlier round guys. The Hairston pick last year was more so out of need than anything, and I could see that being like maybe where there could have also been a sticking point between McDermott and Bean, because in years past, when you didn't need those first round level talents to come in and be a good corner in the system, as long as they understood it. Whereas now you can widen that and go for, like you said, a wider range of guys, including people in the or players in the earlier rounds because maybe they're not the best fit, but they're good athletes, and we're just going to let you line up and play. So there's going to be a lot wider of a range where they can draft corners, whereas previously, unless it was an absolute need like it was last year, where we are mostly mocking them corners in day 3 for that reason.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Jim Leonard's also a DB guy. So when we're questioning whether our DBs and our DB room will still be how it was and how they developed them with McDermott, I think that will transfer over to Jim Leonard, which is very exciting, and the opportunity for that. But I do think Max Hairston was the writing on the wall. After that Kansas City game, you could tell that even McDermott talked about wanting speed on the outside to make his DBs more versatile and the ability to chase down those fast wide receivers a la Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, Brian, I think Buffalo needs a few different kinds of types of wide receiver. So
yeah,
I definitely want to give a shout out to Brian. So Brian has a lot of information on small school players. So Brian, you're here, probably like a podcast a week. It's great to see you stop by the Bills specific podcast on Tuesday night, but definitely thank you for stopping by. So any other corners? Like, do you guys want to do some mock drafts? We want to talk about more corners, free agents?
We want to get into some nickels?
Yeah, we can do some nickels.
Yeah. All right, I'll throw mine out because I know Owen's probably got a bigger library, and I'll see what he thinks about them. I guess this is in the outside/inside. This is the one that's probably not going to be a nickel, but he could be a slot if you need to push him inside and bring versatility on the outside. And I checked consensus because I'm higher than him, and I'm not sure where Owen is. But like Julian Neal from Arkansas, right now his consensus is around the 100, the 102 area on PFF and consensus boards on NFL mock draftable. So I included him in there. I think he's a great piece that you could be as a backup corner and then move him inside. He's dynamite. But if we're looking at guys that can operate in nickel and safety, what comes to mind? Like Chandler Rivers from Duke, Jaden Kennedy from Oregon, of course, Jalen Kilgore from South Carolina, but he's probably top 100. And then I'd like to get Owen's opinion on like Traydon Stukes and Kendall Daniels was kind of my list that I was looking at in that nickel safety hybrid.
Yeah, for me, Julian Neal's a good shout out, and I'm pretty sure, right? He's the Arkansas player.
Yes, he is.
I'm not surprised.
I'm going to hype him up.
Yeah, but I think he's a great shout out because I do think he's a player that played outside corner in college, but he has the build and the strengths, but also the weaknesses of playing at outside corner that makes you think like he's gonna be a guy you can kick inside. Because for me, it was a lot of lack of long speed, not so much the short area quickness stuff. Which when I was talking about the Washington corners earlier, usually when you're looking at guys who are those taller, leaner guys, you're lacking a lot of natural hip fluidity, short area burst, and quickness. Which makes them struggle a bit when it comes to condensing the space like that. But for me, Neal excelled there and was a little more eager than anything to get into the backfield and look for like the running back and defend the run, which translates a lot better to being a slot type player. So if you're looking for a guy to come in to play the nickel, he's a player that maybe your teams are going to be down on him as an outside corner, but if you're projecting him inside, could be a bit more value there than what you previously have seen. So I do think that's a good name to shout out, and I do think he could be a guy that falls low enough that you're willing to invest there, especially if he moved on from a Teron Johnson and looking for an immediate replacement or at least someone to fight it out with Jordan Hancock for that spot right away. I think Neal could be a guy that pushes it there, and if not, he can be a backup corner on the outside because he has experience there. But I think truly he's going to live on the inside in the NFL.
I agree.
With Stukes, he's another guy where it's injuries are part of it, age injuries. I know Sam Teets did a great write-up on him. He posted on his Twitter. But for me, I think he's another guy that has some length, has some size. He's more fluid than some of the other like taller kind of DBs are. So for me, part of me wants him to be on the outside just because of that, where you have some fluidity with size. But I do think that he's another guy that can come in and is aggressive enough that you'd want to see him play down the slot. When you're looking for slot corners, it's going to be players that will want to come up and fill the run because you're playing a lot closer to the line of scrimmage. You need to fill that D gap and play the run more effectively.
And Owen, you're specifically saying that Stukes for you projects to a slot because that's not everybody's scouting report on him. So I'm curious, Randall, do you have the same assessment on Stooks as Owen, or do you see Stooks a little bit differently?
I do. Even to be honest, when Arizona plays him in that safety, they put him in that strong safety, and he's almost lined up with the slot defender as it was. And if he comes down and run support, he works from there. So I do see him as that slot or nickel. But man, I'm a big fan of Stooks. I know that he's older prospect with some injury history on it, but the guy is just a ball hawk. He wants to jump routes for PBUs and interceptions. He gets it done. He's high IQ, very instinctual. In that slot and even in the open field at free safety, good tackler, wants a tackler. My only knock for him sometimes is he really needs to be a better decision maker with wide receivers at the stem. Sometimes he has a delayed reaction and it lets him go on a double move. But Stooks, I would project in the slot.
Okay, and do you think based upon age and the fact that he's projecting to slot pushes him to day 3?
That's kind of where I had it, sort of thing. Like the talent, again, like more talent's day 2 all day, but those could be the factors that put him into day 3.
Jerry, were you going to ask a question there a second ago?
No, I was going to make a comment because Randall brought up Kendall Daniels. That's a very, very interesting player to me. I've seen Kendall Daniels play since high school. He played at a small 2A high school in Oklahoma called Beggs. He started out, he was a wide receiver and a corner, eventually moved to safety, and then they all along kind of were thinking of making him this kind of hybrid outside linebacker, which he became at Oklahoma. He's 6'5", 242 pounds, really good athleticism. And you talk about Leonard and some of the stuff he does that's unorthodox and some of his players and how they fit. This is a guy to me that fits that role, like kind of an X factor player that you can bring in and maybe get him later. I mean, he doesn't have a high ranking. You know, he doesn't have a high ranking, but he's 23 years old. Like I said, 6'5", 242, really athletic, really long. He could be even bigger than 242. What's to say that he's not playing outside linebacker in this hybrid 3-4 that also can play some safety? I would keep an eye out for him. I think he's a guy that could really, if Buffalo could steal him later in the draft, he could really fit some unique needs for the Bills.
What is our opinion of this podcast's opinion of the current state of the nickel room specifically? Because we're showing up a lot of guys here. Are we looking for a starter when it comes to the moving on from Teron Johnson? What are our thoughts on Jordan Hancock? How are we feeling?
I think they've got to get somebody in there, whether it's a vet or a young guy. I think they've got to get somebody, and I would have to think, looking at Johnson's contract, you're not going to cut him. He's worth $9 million plus in dead cap money. So you're going to have to deal with them, right? One way or another. You can go ahead and not extend them, but kind of spread the thing out, and then lessen that value if you want to take that chance. But I think you've got to get a young guy in here that can develop because he's got 1 year at the most. And I think, Owen, you said it earlier, and it needs to happen. They've got to bring size in at that position.
Yep.
The way that position has to play the run, you got to have some size. You got to do it.
Oh, sorry, Jared. I agree. I do think that Jordan Hancock should not play safety, and he should be in that nickel to earn that nickel role. I just don't think he's a safety in my opinion. But Taron Johnson is an interesting one. We didn't hear anything about Taron Johnson being injured post the season once we lost and things along those lines. So, when you're looking at Terrell Bernard, we knew Terrell Bernard was injured pretty much the whole entire season. That's why he lost his step. That's why I have confidence in Terrell Bernard next year coming into a will role and kind of readjusting and him still showing out. But Taron Johnson, I'm not sure that he might have lost his step. And he's not the greatest in coverage. He's more like in the tackling. So if he lost that step, the coverage is kind of gone. So a post-June 1st cut saves a lot of money, even though maybe you can use that to sign some guys in the summer and things along those lines. But if you do cut them early, you don't gain that much more money. So I'd be curious. It could be a Jim Leonard thing and a Joe Brady thing, where when they want to make cuts because it's a new coaching cycle and they don't want everybody to come back and who they're going to cut, who they're going to walk away from, he could be an easy cut candidate. So I believe in my head right now, I don't think Taron Johnson should be the starter. I think obviously he should compete for it, but I don't think he'd win it. So he's an out of sight, out of mind guy for me at the moment, and I would bring somebody young and bigger. I've always been looking at bigger for that nickel role. Coverage linebackers in day 3 that could be available, like Kendall Daniels, Aiden Fisher, and things along those lines that could step into a nickel role and be able to sit in nickel without having to consistently move into a different formation against different teams.
And then if we're talking, go ahead, Jerry.
I was going to say a little bit more about Johnson. I think he's been beat up. I was at the first home playoff game, and the first tackle he makes, he's on the ground, and they got to peel him up and kick him off with stingers. I think he's beat up from in the shoulder area and upper body. I think he's hanging on by a thread there. I think he was beat up all year, and I think it affected the way he plays because he was always a downhill effective player. You saw that kind of go away, and when he's not pulling the trigger and he's waiting, that takes away his strengths. So yeah, if you can get another year out of them, that's great. But they've got to have the next guy ready. And I'm with you as well. And I think that with this new defense, it'll take away a lot of the cloudiness and these young guys have in the secondary of trying to make all these decisions like McDermott had them doing. Hancock just let him go play. And I think being in that slot spot would probably help him quite a bit. And we'll see what the coaching staff thinks.
So we've done a couple of slot episodes on this channel where we mentioned players like Harold Perkins, Kyle Lewis, Traydon Stukes, and Jalen Kilgore in the same podcast because realistically they play the same position. So like, Owen, I know that you've talked about Harold Perkins on some of the other podcasts. Would you put Harold Perkins in the slot?
I think as a big nickel, that's my favorite role for him. He was like this weird, like undersized edge rusher, and he popped off because he was just a great athlete early on at LSU. They tried to move him more off ball, and he kind of struggled to find a role. This past season, he played a ton over the slot and in more space, and they weaponized his athleticism in that space, but still allowed him to be closer to the line of scrimmage and allowing him to blitz and come up and fill from that D-gap spot. So I think moving him out towards that nickel slot area is going to maximize Perkins because then you're removing him from having to stack and shed and work inside tighter spaces where he's going to have a bunch of line get hands on him, and he's going to struggle to get off blocks. He's going to be working a lot more space, but still have that level of physicality and size that you're missing out there. It's going to be whether or not the previous hype is going to get him drafted high enough. And that was kind of where I was looking for with the question of where are we at with the room is like, what's the highest level of investment we're willing to make, whether it's free agency dollars or if it's going to be draft capital. If we took Keontae Scott with our 3rd round pick, are we happy with that? Or are we looking for a Solomon Brown in the 7th round? Or are we looking for somebody in the slot? And what's the highest, or what is your desired investment you're looking to make at that position? Because you already have Hancock and it's 50-50 whether or not you still have Johnson.
I would be willing to entertain Jalen Kilgore in round 3, but I think other than Kilgore specifically, I think for me the rest of this is day 3. Like Kyle Lewis, Harold Perkins, if they're day 3 picks, look way better than if Kyle Lewis or Harold Perkins is the 3rd round pick.
Correct. Yeah, that's how I am. I'm curious what Jerry and Randall have to say with specifically where are you starting to get comfortable for them drafting or signing a nickel exclusive defender?
Day 3 for me. Jerry, you're muted if you want to go, bud.
Go ahead.
Thanks,
Jerry.
Randall. Hello, Randall. I was movie reference. Anybody?
That resonated, but I can't always think and talk at the same time, Jerry.
Steve Buscemi voice to the character Monsters Inc.
Oh yeah, Monsters Inc.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, I'm with you, Randall. I'm day 3, man. We got a lot of stuff we need to get. I'm not sitting there trying to get a slot corner in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. Let's get to day 3 and go from there.
You want to sell me on Kilgore?
I think the draft community is so high on Keontae Scott, but I can't see NFL GMs investing a day 2 pick on a 23-year-old cornerback. The NFL likes 21-year-old cornerbacks, not 23-year-old. So while if we got Keontae Scott like in round 4, I would love that pick, but I don't want to spend an earlier pick on Keontae Scott no matter how good the film is.
He was so bad in 24 too. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I mean, he was decent in 23. 24, he was horrible. A passer rating of 145.1 when they went at him. Now, this year he dropped it down to 69.9. But for whatever reason, his junior year was not very good.
Yeah, there's some recency bias in there because he did do well at the end of the year, and he had that pick 6. So people are loving that for sure.
Well, Randall, you were asking something?
Yeah, am I the only one with a early day 3 grade on Kilgore? I don't see the moxie of a day 2 guy for me.
You're not the only one.
Okay,
Where are you grading him as a safety or are you grading him as a corner?
I'm grading him as a slot corner. I don't think I'm not sure if he would be a great safety. I think he fits in the slot role more, but I just don't see day 2 for me.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I was going to say, I think Sam Teets is with you. I believe JT is Kilgore graded as a linebacker. He doesn't even like him as a defensive back.
I mean,
Now
he
that's
played-
a take, and I kind of like
Interesting.
that take because I struggle. I don't have a specific slot corner grading scale, so I have to fit him into a spot where I'm trying to, if you grade him as a corner, there's a lot more heavily weighted to coverage over run defense. But then if you grade him as a safety, it's a lot more heavily weighted to run defense. But there's also more athleticism elements that I think he doesn't really have as much when it comes to looking at him as a true safety. So grading him out as a linebacker is similar to like that Harold Perkins mold where he's got good athleticism for closer to line of scrimmage, has some burst, is aggressive and physical. He's undersized, but like being that grading him out as a linebacker might get me a little bit higher on him. But I am also like really day 3 on him, especially for that reason. But if you were gonna ask me to pick a guy to go in the slot, like that's a guy that I think from what you previously had with Teron Johnson, and then moving up and getting size and getting more physicality and run defense, like him, Perkins, Lewis from Pitt, like those are players that even like when you're looking at linebackers, like I'll shout out Jerry's guy with Owen Heineke, like even having him as like another linebacker that can be a movement guy in that space area. Him, Aiden Fisher, who for my money is the best coverage linebacker in the class with Aiden Fisher.
Same.
You have players that can fit that mold of having size but still playing in the nickel. So surprisingly for this class, there's a lot of those guys, but you're not having the Nick Eman-Wari types, the Malachi Starks types from last year where they played in slot nickel and they still also had top end talent for other positions as well, where a lot of these guys, you got the concerns for all of them and trying to place them more neatly in positions outside of just nickel defender.
Well,
So,
yeah,
Jerry, could you see Kendall Daniels being a light developmental version of those guys?
I could see Kendall Daniels thriving as not just a light developmental guy, as the guy.
Yeah.
I think Kendall Daniels is a linebacker, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think he's an outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense, and you let him play coverage and rush and do the things he does. And like I said, I think development-wise, and granted, I know college, they have these strength programs and stuff, but still, I mean, he's 245 and he still looks skinny. I mean, he can put on some more weight. I mean, he's athletic. And I really think that was always the plan. I know they did that with him in Oklahoma State. They brought him down in the box, and on third down, they let him rush the passer quite a bit. Then his last year, of course, or his last 2 years, he transferred to Oklahoma. But when he was at Oklahoma State, he did do some of that stuff. But as far as Kilgore goes, snap count-wise, he played 497 snaps in the slot, only 20 and 157 of them in the box. So, yeah, that's where he lived. Only 4 snaps at corner.
Well,
I want to say that this podcast started out with Jerry calling me predictable for shouting at the Washington guys, but I didn't have to guess where Kendall Daniels went to school. I just knew he had to be in Oklahoma.
Well, I'm not even an Oklahoma fan. That's what's crazy. That's just crazy. I'm not even an Oklahoma fan.
Just in the state of Oklahoma, he was in there somewhere.
Right,
No, they're tough cats in Oklahoma. Believe me.
So every year, right, when we're doing different episodes I'm planning, right? So there's a Jordan Hancock episode for defensive backs. I go to the different draft professors. I say, okay, we need to do a podcast and all the players that are like Jordan Hancock. And those are players that we're not sure what position they play. And Jalen Kilgore was the first player mentioned when I put that podcast together this year.
Yeah.
So, Randall, my question, what's your grade on Kilgore relative to Jordan Hancock?
Man, pretty similar. If I'm not mistaken, Jordan Hancock I had an early day 3 on, and I have an early day 3 on Jalen Kilgore. I think they're different. I think Jordan Hancock kind of ran around at Ohio State with his hair on fire and just attacked where he could with his high athleticism, as you could see in his testing and things along those lines. But if I had to maybe put somebody in that Jordan Hancock, I'd almost say Chandler Rivers, because Chandler Rivers you could put anywhere. He played in every, almost like every game he plays outside. He'll play outside corner a little bit. He'll play slot and he'll play safety. So he's kind of Chandler Rivers is a utility DB guy that's like Jordan
He was
Hancock.
another player that was covered on that same podcast. He just wasn't the first name.
I like Chandler Rivers a lot. I think he runs around. He runs around with his hair on fire. He'll do whatever you need to do. He'll tackle. He'll play outside. He'll play inside. He'll play safety. He's a fun watch.
But would you take Chandler Rivers before round 5?
Yeah. I would take him at
how
round
about-
5. I would take him at round 5.
At round 5, but not round 4?
No, I'd be okay with round 4. Depending on what the board looked like, I'd still be okay with it. I wouldn't be the happiest camper, but, you know.
Got it. What is your overall grade and scouting report for Rivers? Like, what position do you think is best for him?
Yeah, so we covered him in the summer process for safety, and I got to come back around for him on this episode because kind of split it between the corners and safeties, especially when you're looking at nickel players. I do think where I liked him, and similarly to a player like is it Miles Scott from Illinois, the safety, not the corner. He's another guy. Both those players were coming downhill, operating stuff in front of them, and especially if you're going to have them close to the line of scrimmage, both with the run being in front of them, but having them in like some shorter zone areas, not asking them to carry guys up the seam and operate more so with that process. I do think they work a lot better if that's the kind of slot defender you're looking for. If you're looking for a guy that is going to be able to rotate back and be the single high or come down and be like rotate back and forth, I don't think that's going to be what you're looking for. Which I'm also curious to see what the Bills do with that when it comes to if they want to run 2 safeties, is there going to be a world where Cole Bishop is operating in that slot a lot more often, and if they want to run like more base with linebackers, that could be where you see those guys kind of fill in a bit more. Is a strong safety type that excels mostly when it's down towards the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
I think for both those guys, that element of it is similar to what Jordan Hancock was. I think more so for the Bills this past year. For me, when I'm looking at who could be like that Jordan Hancock-esque player, we talked about it already with Neal, where a guy who has experience playing outside, where Hancock did play outside for Ohio State for a bit as a corner, and then rotated between being like, you saw them starting to play around with it later on with him at Ohio State being a deep safety guy sometimes, and also playing towards the line of scrimmage. He played all over, and you thought, like in my write-up, like aggressive tackler for just Jordan Hancock's write-up. Aggressive tackler, plays with hair on fire, fires upfield, plays stuff that's in front of him. Like that's where he excelled. So that's why I was projecting Hancock inside a slot, and not so much as a safety. So that's why I think for me, Neal and guys that are going to be specifically slot, maybe not so much flexing into deeper coverage safety looks. If anything, they're going to be going back outside the corner as opposed to going to safety, is where you're going to look for the Jordan Hancock-esque type players.
Any other? And I wanted to give a point of clarification. Xavier Scott, I think, was the Illinois corner that played slot, could project to safety. He tore his ACL and he returned to school.
Yeah, I wish he was in this class. Like between him, if he would have been out in this class, I would have been all over for that. Even like I wish he. I hate to say this because it sucks he got hurt, but like I wish he was out of eligibility and then also got hurt because then we could have got him later on in the process because he was a guy way better than the range that we're talking about grabbing a guy. But the fact he had that injury, you probably could have got him where we're looking to grab a nickel guy. And even like prior to the season, like D'Angelo Pons would have loved for the slot role here. But that's if you don't want to move towards more size there. But I do think there were some really good slot players coming into the year, and we either lost them because they're out of range or they went back or got hurt. So there are some guys that we in our range that we're liking, but there was a good, strong class of that leading into this.
Okay. Randall, Owen, Jerry, any more corners that we want to talk about?
That was my list.
I did shout him out earlier in this podcast. I shot him out last week, but again, University of Buffalo, Solomon Brown, safety hot slot type hybrid player, excels with special teams, run defending, tackling. If you're going to get a guy that's going to come in and be a depth player that can make the 53-man roster by being a special teams playing DB and fits kind of what we've talked about, what you want. He's 5'11", hover around 200 pounds, going to bring more size than a Teron Johnson did to the slot. Could be a guy that could come in and compete as a depth player there. So, and is in that UB to Buffalo Bills pipeline. So I think he's going to be a guy that you're going to see them maybe target a bit more, especially when it comes to just filling up the roster this offseason. Don't be surprised when he gets an invite for the Buffalo Bills to come play for them.
I do have one more guy that I did say, but I would like to maybe get Owen's opinion on. It's Jaden Kennedy from Oregon. What is your thoughts on him as a round 6, round 7 nickel developmental guy?
So I didn't get to him specifically, but I did when I did watch Oregon games. He did pop a bit. I'm excited to dive into him more. I didn't know where he fit cleanly with our episodes we were going to cover him on. So I kind of just stayed away, covered more of the guys I knew that if we were going to hit on them, definitely. I'm curious to hear what the sales pitch is, especially for his profile and how he fits more cleanly to the defense, Randall.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little undersized, but he plays above his weight. He plays like when Oregon goes into that cover 3 heat, that's when he plays in that safety role in that cover 3. Mainly plays in the slot, but he does a good job at defending the run for his size. He can get off blocks. He has good angles and evades blockers to get to the ball carrier. Solid footwork, fluid hips, opens the hips well in zone and cover 2 levels. Good trail technique, handles short and intermediate routes well. And he always just, when I watch him, he always just kind of played above his weight. Like, he held his own very, very well against Makai Lemon, and that's one of the big things that stood out. He shut him down for 75% of the reps they had. He got him twice when it came down to it, but one was kind of like a desperation PBU at the 3-yard line. My knocks for him is just short. The top speed is a little questionable. I think that's why he kind of had his way with Makai Lemon a little bit, because I think Makai Lemon's long speed is a little bit questionable as well. But and then just losing his footage in his back pedal, I think, is a big knock for him. That's why he goes into like the late day 3. But I think he's a really good developmental guy that punches above his weight and has stoned a good amount of decent wide receivers this year.
Ian Cummings,
especially for being a slot guy. That nothing you said gets me off of him being a slot play type player. So I think that is an exciting sales pitch. I think I'm buying your elevator pitch there, Randall.
Hey.
Yeah, so I think when Ian Cummings covered him, so did JT. The grade was very draftable, but it was very late day 3 draft.
Right.
So it sounds like you guys see the player similar.
Yeah, I think he could be a opportunistic late day 3 pick.
Yeah. And like my overall instinct is that we're gonna see some DBs either make the roster as a UDFA, or we will see some really unique UDFA DBs on the practice squad that get called up at some point. I think there's going to be a transformation in the DB room.
I'm with you.
So, well, do you guys want to do like a first round challenge and then close out the podcast?
Sure. Yep.
Sure.
Or do you want to do a first round challenge? Or do you want to do a full mock? Because we talked a lot about day 3 guys today.
Well,
do you want to do what you said, the 5-round fanatic, 3 times?
I mean, if we do the 5-round fanatic, we're going to be here for like another 40 minutes, and I was going to be more respectful of people's time.
Yeah.
Hey.
I thought we were just going to fight.
You guys will be here another 40 minutes.
Jerry's battery is going to go out like Owen.
Okay, we will do a single 7-round mock.
Because I know last week we hit on we got Damani Jackson in the 5th or 6th in the mock we did, which ended up being where we were kind of like a good launching point into this week, which is why I was interested to see where the different players landed.
I'm scrolling through. So the picks right now are Mendoza, Reese, Bain, Tate, Maui, Noah, Lemon, Bailey, Delane, Tyson, Downs, Ione, Styles, Fano, Woods, Parker, McCoy, Freeling, Love, Falk, Lomu, Terrell, Pregnon, Sadiq, Besantis.
Look at that. Look at that.
It's our boy, Jerry.
Look at that. Tell them to stop. We don't. No.
Oh,
Here we go. So we're gonna
Okay.
pick. Are we gonna pick Keon 2.0?
Caleb Banks being on the board.
I'm
is
sorry,
really
Owen. I didn't mean to say that disparagingly about your guy from Washington, but
No. I'm not.
Very
I'm
with
fine with Boston not being the pick. Of the receivers here, I would not take him over like a Surratt or a Hurst. For what the Bills need. I think you're right that they already have that kind of jump ball type player on the roster. I think Boston is better off when it comes to that. I think he's a better prospect even coming out of college than Keon was. But yeah, I wouldn't jump for that right here. My eyes immediately go to Caleb Banks, just being a guy that is like a really good 5-tech player and can be a nose at the same time. Played in a similar system in Florida and is just a freak athlete on the D line when it comes to that. So if you're interested in more of the nose tackles, you can go with McDonald or Hunter, but Banks is always, whenever he's available, I always jump to take him at 26.
I like the idea of Caleb Banks, especially because of his versatility in the 5-tech and the nose tackle. So if you're interested in using Deion Walker as a moonlight nose tackle, then you go free agency as a good nose tackle, then combine those 3 snaps. I'm in for it too. I'm a big fan of Caleb Banks. I agree. I believe the dip is pad level related a little bit, but also because he didn't play this year. So I think if he played the full year, he'd be probably a top 18 lock.
compare and contrast how you would use Caleb Banks and Deion Walker. Are they similar, or would you use them differently?
I would use Deion Walker all over the place, realistically. I think you could use Deion in the 5-4 and nose with a little bit outside as well, what he did in Kentucky. And Caleb Banks, I think what Owen said would be more of the 5-tech nose tackle.
I think Banks is a lot more comfortable using his hands, using his length to shield off blockers, and playing in that space in the run, as opposed to Deion, who lives and dies by the gap shooting and beating guys off the spot. So I think Banks could be a guy that could be more of the nose tackle if you want that, or more of the 5-tech where you're asking him to play head up and to gap it a bit more. So I think if you have Banks, you don't have to worry about Deion having to be the answer at 5-tech for you. You can move him around and have him cross-train at all those different spots and just find whatever he fits perfectly, or have him be like the primary rotational piece for any of the guys with how you're going to have those guys line up.
Deion is incredibly inflexible and cannot use his hands because he can't stay down out of his stance. He can't step. He can't shoot his hands. One thing he does really, really well is he has a nose for the football. He is able to retrace and get down the line. He's much better side to side than he is upfield. I think he'll be fine as a 4-eye. I think he'll be very good as a 4-eye. I hate him as a nose guard. I can't stand him as a nose guard unless he plays on the pass rush where he can sit down and swat planes, which he does very, very well. So I could see that, but I think he's a 4-eye guy. And like Randall said, at Kentucky, he kind of played across the board, played everything there, but he is very good at finding the football. He's very good at getting down the line of scrimmage and playing lateral and using his length. But he is not a guy that's going to take on anything. So if you want that guy, you pick Banks.
Okay.
I definitely think the moonlighting for Deion is obvious pass situations, for sure.
Yeah,
I just think that he got way too much. I think he was fine as a rookie. Where he was coming out of the draft and watching him, okay, and then seeing what's going on now. I mean, yes, we got a lot out of him, but he's been blown up way higher than he is. He's a good player. He's an okay player. He's a rotational guy.
Yeah, I really like Deion. I think what he was deficient at, I never expected him to grow into that. And I think he took a step forward in what I thought was near impossible for Deion Walker to improve on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like that. He plays much more to his length and his size, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I agree with that. I think he's got, and then like I said earlier, I think he's really good at finding the football. I mean, he is very good at finding the football.
Hey, so we get to round 2.
So we took Banks.
I took Caleb Banks. Yes.
Okay.
I heard consensus.
And the
Sure.
city of Buffalo burned down after the first pick.
Yeah, for real though.
I love this.
Yeah,
I love this. I love it so much because I that's the first thing I envision in my
Yeah.
head is how does the fan base react to what we just did?
Yeah, just
Well-
don't go on Twitter for the full
Yeah.
till day 2 starts.
So Jerry, I just got a question texted to me, and I know the answer, but can you explain 4I for one member of the listening audience right now?
Yes, a 4-eye is the inside shade of the tackle. So you have to look at when you go down the line. There's everything has a number assigned to it. So head up on the center is a 0. You got a shade on the center or a 1 technique. You go to the inside shoulder of the guard is a 2-eye, eye meaning inside. Head up on the guard is a 2 technique. Outside shoulder of the guard is a 3 technique. Inside shoulder of a tackle is a 4-eye. Head up on the tackle is a 4 technique. Outside shoulder of a tackle is a 5 technique. So that's where you're talking. So, we talk about there being no more 3 techniques in this guy's defense and Leonard's defense, but really it's like you move 2 feet and you're at a 4-eye from a 3. So it's very, very similar. I like 4-eyes. Especially with the type of defensive tackles we have, I think it frees them up and allows them to do a lot more than playing the 3.
So Lilia, I hope that answer satisfied the text that you just sent me. So, okay, and then Jerry, this is Lilia
There you
saying
go.
thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay,
and notice, guys, I didn't even bring into consideration the shades on the tight end because that just totally blows everybody's mind.
You want to put Deanna at 9 tech?
He'll do it. I got a clip of him doing it.
Yeah, I watched him in 9 tech.
Yeah.
so
Are we going wide receiver here?
So at pick 60, like if we don't want to get called out on Jeremy White's radio show, I think we have to pick out a wide receiver.
I don't know. What edges do we have right now?
So Mesidor is here. Derek Moore is here.
Oh.
Well, Mesidor, I feel like I
he's not-
love Mesidor. But if
He's
we
not
just
a
went with
fit, is
Banks,
he?
Yeah,
if we went with Banks, it'd be kind of redundant to get Mesidor as well.
Yeah, I
Agreed.
agree with that.
I think if we're going to go wide receiver, what we've kind of ignored is the fit for what they've previously done with wide receiver in these schemes because they brought in a bunch of the Sean Payton guys, and we currently on the roster we have Shakir, which he doesn't really fit cleanly into what they do because they usually like the power slot, and then you have the speed guy, and then your separator, your traditional X type player. I do think that they are going to find enough guys and mold their system to fit who they currently have personnel-wise on the team there. But if you think about like removing Shakir from the equation, you have Coleman and or Shakir as your slot player. We're really looking for a guy that can be a field stretcher, and we're also looking for more of a separator type. Now, is that going to be, Josh Palmer if he can stay healthy as a separator? Maybe, but I wouldn't want to put that much on his shoulders. So if we're going to target a receiver here, it's like Ted Hurst is more of that speed element. They can play on the outside, or are we going with someone else, one of the smaller guys that can create more separation? Like you can highlight Zachariah Branch there. I'm not so sure. Someone that if we want to target wide receiver in the later round that I felt like had a phenomenal Senior Bowl with the 1-on-1s, I finally got caught up and watched some of the tape there, was Barry Brown from LSU as a smaller guy who can create some separation. He was just absolutely dominating those 1-on-1s with that. So if you're looking for maybe your more separator type guy, that could be where you go with that right now. But I'm curious where we could see wide receiver right now and how that would fit more into what they've previously established they'd like to do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Barry Brown's going to spike up everybody's boards. We were super high on him in the summer. Then he took a dip based on route running, really. But he is going to run the mid 4.3s. He's going to be fast guy. I mean, Antonio Williams, I still think is a field stretcher and in Z-like capabilities. So he's always interesting. It's kind of, realistically, we lose Curtis Samuel. You gain a Curtis Samuel-esque in Antonio Williams. So I like the idea of him. Ted Hurst is great. I love Ted Hurst, so I won't be mad about that. I'm kind of anti-Zachariah Branch, in my opinion, and Malachi Fields for Buffalo. Those two guys I'm not so sure on that they fit, especially with Malachi Fields is kind of like a right price Keon.
So
Yeah, so you want to talk about discount Keon? You got Malachi Fields there. Jerry, you're
Right.
muted.
well,
I'm sitting here trying to not make noise while I'm over here messing around. All right. Daniel Jeremiah had Malachi Fields going to the Bills in the first round in his mock today.
That's insane.
Pass.
That would literally be repeating history with Keon Coleman.
And let me read the 3 words that completely discounted this pick. Wide catch radius. I'm out.
Ugh.
I'm out.
Ugh.
so
I'm out.
So this came up on the Friday mock. So Will brought up what he thinks Ted Hurst is going to run. Randall, what's your projection for the 40 time for Ted Hurst?
I think he's going to run a 4.45. I think that's what it looked like when I saw it in tape. I recorrected myself a little too fast when we were talking about it because low 4.3s came into the picture and things along those lines. I can't see a 6'3" at 4.34 is a first rounder. If he pulls that, that's
That's
to me
that's where I'm taking the conversation in a minute.
absurd. That's absurd. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think he runs a 4.45, which is supplants him exactly where he is. Second round, maybe early third.
Owen, how about you? What do you think Ted Hurst runs?
I think if he runs a 4.4 flat, you're excited because he's made himself a lot more money. That's where I think he's going to run. He ran really fast, but you're going to ramp a little competition. Kind of the athletes he was playing against at that level, like being at Georgia State, but even against Ole Miss, he did look like he had a good step on some of these guys. So I do think he can run in those low 4.4s, even maybe crack a high 4.3 if he really has put that little training in or has lost some weight in the time being, which I don't know where he would have lost it. He doesn't really have a ton on his frame at the moment. That's kind of my knock on him is maybe this will be more appealing for Jerry. Is that my assessment of Ted Hurst is he's tall, lean, has a lot of speed, and has some good wiggle to create some separation with route running and has good ability to concentrate and play above the rim, but more so just as an athlete. Where I struggle with him is that he just doesn't play with that level of physicality that you'd like to see from a guy of his size, where he can get rerouted. He struggles over in the middle when facing contact at the catch point. So he's tall and he's got the speed and ability to jump high, but he's not particularly like this. He's the opposite. He's the anti-Keon Coleman, despite having the size, where he's not overly physical and dominating at that point. So if that's more appealing because he has that speed element, I think that could be something you'd want for this offense. But I'm not sure where I'd be fine with Ted Hurst here, especially even if he did one 4.45 or even ran into the higher 4.4s. I'd still be, from what I've seen on tape, happy with him being here as the pick for wide receiver.
Any disagreements with Ted Hurst at pick 60? Okay. Silence is a form of agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We all just got fired.
Good thing my salary went from 0 to 0.
So round 3, after taking Caleb Banks and Ted Hurst,
Do we have to keep
Owens,
the good
no matter
juju?
what pick,
Yeah.
hasn't made it to the top of the round 3 board yet.
Will Buffalo draft him if we draft him every Tuesday until the draft?
I don't know. Did I make my tweet yet today? I need to make my tweet.
Oh, I don't know, but I've been trying to see. I noticed that you did it, and I've been trying to retweet him.
Yep. So, Jerry, have you heard Owens pitch on Jayshon Barham yet?
No, I have not.
Okay, Owen, go ahead and tell Jerry why it's Jayshon Barham.
Well, this is the highlight of my week now. So Barham, I watched him coming into the season. He was at Michigan, stack linebacker, 6'2", 6'3", 240 plus, absolute hammer in the middle. But you had question marks about whether he was going to have enough range and ability to play in coverage and cover space specifically as a Mike linebacker. I liked him still because he could come in and put offensive linemen on their ass and blow up run plays and be kind of more aggressive downhill attacking style player. Then Michigan this season moved him to edge full time, where they utilized him as an outside blitzer on the edge. But he also was still floating and playing in some space out there, attacking screens and covering backs out the backfield on occasion. And he had good success in his first year of playing that position, where you still saw him controlling blockers, having heavy hands, utilizing length, and winning as a pass rusher when he was given true pass set or true sets to go and do that, as opposed to having to be blitz or crafted up as a blitzer to then get opportunities to rush. So he showed a bit more dimension to his game as a pass rusher. So I think for me, if you're looking for an edge player to play in this system where he can complement maybe the other side where you have your Nick NATO super undersized edge type player that you end up getting either free agency or later on the draft, or maybe it's Javon Solomon, whatever, wherever you get that guy, your other outside linebacker type player, Barham, can either be that from his experience being that off-ball guy, or he can be that outside edge player that is still able to set an edge, play the run defense while also having some aggressive, violent tendencies, especially when rushing the passer.
As far as that undersized defensive end linebacker type position that we need to find for this defense, I don't want to hear how he plays the run. I'm not worried about playing the run. We need to run. We have got to rush the passer. Period. And I mean, we've got, to me, if I look at what our roster, we've got this guy on our roster already. I mean, his name's Javon Solomon, right? They're built the same, seem the same, whatever. But I just my thing is this, guys. I want athlete. I want lanky. I want pass rush. We've got to have a pass rusher at that spot. So honestly, really personally, I could care less if he plays the run or not.
Are we positive Javon Solomon's going to be on the team?
You know, there's a good chance he won't be.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that. I do think Barham specifically as a player when he exhibited on the edge this year, I wasn't the biggest fan of Solomon coming out, but I did have people who I talked to frequently that were. He is going to bring more so as a pass rusher, maybe not as this outside bendy type guy, but he still wins more so with being able to push the pocket. And he did win with some speed on the edge this year. It's just it was his first year of really implementing that into his scheme. So if you're relying more on, depends where Rousseau plays, I think, for me personally, where if he's going to be more of your guy as the rush outside linebacker type, then you could maybe look at that. But if you're looking for more of your lightweight guy, you're going to look at Q Hutchins from Boston College, even a Max Llewellyn, to be honest with you, as like a pure, don't care about the run defense, pass rush, go out and win me a rep type of guy. I think Llewellyn's getting kind of slept on now since he was super high coming into the year, but is just because he couldn't defend the run and was kind of in between positions in Iowa, you saw him not get as much attention.
I was really expecting a jump from Llewellyn, because the kind of knock with Llewellyn was he didn't have a lot of snaps, but he was super efficient in those snaps. And then when you gain those snaps, what are you going to do with those snaps? And I didn't see the production kind of transfer over into his efficiency in his pass rush. But man, Max Llewellyn brings a absolute pass rush bag. Probably one of the best spin moves in the class. Comes with a pass rush plan. Does not just kind of spam 2 moves. He's got 4 in his bag. He's an interesting prospect. I
think that one guy you might see in Buffalo to take that spot, so taking a guy like this in a developmental spot would help, is I think, John Franklin Myers might be that guy that they bring in, coming, poaching from Denver to bring him over to be that guy. So we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, I mean, I don't care. I mean, we can take him. That's fine. I'll take your word for it, Owen, if he can get after the passer. But I don't really – it's kind of like what I said earlier about the wide receivers, when the first thing I saw was wide catch radius. No, I don't care. These ends, I want to see nothing but pass rush. If he's telling me that he's suspect in the run, but he gets after the passer, I'm fine with that. We've got to figure out a way to get to the quarterback.
I think to make this fun, we can go with Llewellyn over Barham, because I'm going to always pound the table with Barham personally, but I think we have yet to mock this one to the Bills, and I do think he could be interesting for what they're currently trying to run.
Okay.
Great.
Max Llewellyn, welcome to Buffalo. Okay, so now we're getting into the day 3.
So we're getting rid of one Iowa guy and bringing in another.
Yes, but they're totally, completely different. You couldn't be more different of defensive ends.
Good.
So round 4, Dalen Everett is here. That was one of the players we spoke about. Preston Hodge, a slot corner from Colorado, is also here in round 4. Chandler Rivers is here in round 4.
Why are we talking? I got a question here, and I know, Jim, you're running this thing, so you're looking at cornerbacks because we talked about it earlier. Why are we not possibly looking at the big board? Okay, best available, and why are we not looking at possible replacements for center and guard at this spot?
Where are you at with the either Alec Anderson and or Cedric Van Granger as replacement centers?
I would not play Alec Anderson at center. If
Agreed.
he wins the position and plays guard, I have no problem with that. I don't need a tweaker playing center. And when I mean that, I'm talking the way he plays. He's super aggressive, always in the middle of something. I need that guy to be flatline. I need him to be chill. I need him to be running, worrying about protections and not worrying about mixing it up. Now, if he makes it a guard, I'm all about it. Now, you can go do that at guard. Have at it. So my thing is, if he plays, it's going to be a guard. And then you got Van Granger, who he has some length issues as far as arm length, but I do like everything else about him. I think he's changed his body quite a bit since he came from Georgia. I think he's second level, really played really well. I thought he was a little bit iffy on that his rookie year. I thought he was awesome the second level of that game he played. I think he'll be fine as long as he gets more reps. We haven't seen a preseason out of him. He was hurt all preseason. So if we get a summer out of him and get preseason games, let's see where he is. But this might be an area that we could maybe steal what we need next. I think you look at interior offensive line and you look at cornerback kind of the same, Jim. If we, where do we steal the best player at either of those spots? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Jerry, I'm bored, and I'm a steward of the dialogue. So curious, Matt Golban for you, Randall. Have you graded him yet?
I have not. I'm still getting into my centers and still getting through my guards. I do think that.
Give Randall the sales pitch.
Yeah, Golban wasn't a guy I think me and Jerry covered while we were doing our list. He was a guy I got around to after we kind of concluded our offensive line watches. He's someone who isn't going to blow you off the screen with like high level athleticism or just a lot of that high like elite movement. But he holds his head above water when it comes to that. What he does is he's intelligent. Was that consistent leader from the Michigan State offensive line, and he will put guys in the dirt. And when he moves up to that second level, I think is where he does excel a lot more. Even though he's not this elite athlete, his angles he takes there, ability to cut off angles from the linebackers, and then being able to just dictate where the ball is going and clearing out pathways and walling off while also moving guys out of the way and clearing out pathways. He's someone that, well, I don't think he has the super high upside of the athletic guys that we're talked about, like a Parker Brailsford, like who's still on the board here. But I think he's all around a better player when it comes to intelligent IQ, technique, power, and blending them all together to be, maybe a lower ceiling, but a super high floor. Like I think could come in and be your immediate starter if you do draft him at center. I have like a round 2 grade on him, so him being here in the 4th is beyond for me where I would take him.
I definitely think center is going to be open because they had the void. Yesterday was the last day for void years to extend your guys to lower those void caps. Connor McGovern was one that was not extended before that time, so his dead cap is permanent in place, and that's kind of a sign for me. And that's SVPG was lifting weights while Joe Brady was doing his introductory press conference, so he was trying to show him something.
No, I think you're right. You got to give him a chance. I think too, if you look at that position and the other guard spot as well, you could probably go find yourself kind of a 1-year mercenary, kind of that veteran henchman. And I think that there's some guys out there that would fit in that role for Buffalo. But I do think that it would be worthwhile, especially with the fact that, if we go ahead and take 2 like 1-year signing guys, now your right guard you got to get him re-signed. You don't want to pay him that money. He bolts. Now you've got nothing as far as a succession plan. So you're going to have to do something. I personally think if you took a guy here in the 4th, it would be a guard, not a center. And
is there somebody that you like, Jerry? Like I'm thinking Bo Stevens, Jeremiah Wright.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Not presently right here. I mean, I like Bo Stevens. I don't want him in the 4th round. So maybe we wait till the 5th to see who's available. We go with the cornerback spot or best available here. I got safeties as well.
So if we have safety and linebacker here,
Owen, would it shock you if I told you I liked Robert Jennings? Smith Jennings.
Spears Jennings.
No, I wouldn't at all.
Predictable.
Do you want to know where he went to
Uh,
high school? He went to Broken Arrow High School, by the way.
Yeah.
So in round 4, Wheatley feels like that's really good value based upon what I hear other people having him graded as. So
Have we not
Randall,
addressed
Owen, are both of
linebacker?
you guys day 2 on Wheatley?
I
have
am
around
day 2
three
on
grade
Wheatley. Yeah, Wheatley's that's definitely a BPA scenario. We also haven't addressed linebacker, right? Which I'm okay with skipping on linebacker right now if we just probably went in free agency. But is anybody big fan other than myself a big fan of Torian York? I know he's
I like
small
York.
and compact, but Torian York is a dog.
Yeah, I
He-
like
22
York. He's just where does he play with Terrell Bernard on your roster?
True.
You've got backers on this roster that fit this defensive scheme without having to get one in the 4th round. You're going to be surprised. I think that Dorian Williams is going to be thriving in this defense, and I think that Joe Andreessen is going to play very, very well in this defense.
I love that.
Do we like
Because-
Zakee Wheatley here?
I
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
key.
I like that a lot. I
Yeah.
think that's a great
Yeah.
pick.
Okay. And then round 5, we're going to circle back to offensive line.
Yeah, let's see what we got guards. Let's see what guards are available.
If Caden Barnett's there, I would jump on that.
It's don't quit your guys. So, Owen, have you watched Jeremiah Wright from Auburn yet?
I haven't. He was a name that popped up from some of the offseason lists that I didn't get to. Him and is Braun. I think Braun is the Kentucky guard I missed watching throughout the process. I watched the other one.
Yeah. So, Randall, where are you on the Kentucky guards and Jeremiah Wright?
Oh, I've gotten through about 15 guards, but I'm not in that day 3 area yet. I haven't got to Jeremiah Wright. That is actually my agenda tomorrow.
Go all the way
lied.
down.
I have
Yeah.
seen. I have watched Braun. I was not. He's a round 6, round 7 grade for me.
Carmona was a guy we evaluated. It wasn't bad. He's the guy that has the iffy background. He stepped on the dude's ankle in the game and all that.
And then laughed, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
Carmona brings because it was his last year, and he knew that he had to move to guard, and he couldn't play tackle in the NFL. So he does have good tackle experience with being able to play guard. That's a versatile piece that is interesting.
Yeah, we looked
Oh,
at
and
Michael
here's
Morris.
one more that was a late declare. So Billy Schroff from Notre Dame, he was on the summer scouting list, but I thought he was going back to school, so I didn't even include him in the list that I gave you and Jerry.
Yeah, this is the first time seeing his name.
Yep.
We looked at Ben Coleman. I wasn't particularly.
This feels
El
like
Hattie,
a
El Hattie, yeah, El Hattie. I had no love for it. Really, honestly,
No.
you make Owen's day, and let's take since we didn't take his defensive end from Michigan, we'll take his offensive guard so he can be
There we
happy.
go. Hayden Barnett.
I mean,
I'm gonna
Barnett is
sleep
just
comfortably
pure
tonight.
ass kicker. I just
Yeah.
love me
Yeah.
some ass kickers.
Well, I'll tell you what, he needs to chill out because you watched him at that one game when he was walking on the field and the way he was running his mouth. He's going to have a rude awakening. He needs to make sure he watches himself.
I'd rather rein that in than try to pull it out of some other guys.
That's true. I got you on that. I hear you on that.
Where's your Oklahoma boy? Gotta
Who?
go back to our guys.
Let's do it.
Kendall
Yeah,
Daniels.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
make
all
my
day.
night. Make my night all day on that one.
There
I'm
we
with
go.
you, Jerry. I've been eyeing
And then-
him for a couple months.
Cornerback. JQ Hardaway. I was surprised to see him here in round 7.
Wasn't Gilbo someone that was getting a lot of hype coming into the season? I haven't
Yeah,
gone
he
back to
had
watch him.
huge summer hype.
Yeah, Dalton
Yeah.
Miller had him in his top 10 corners when he podcasted with us.
Yeah.
Kennedy.
There's Kennedy. Yeah,
There you
there's
go.
Kennedy.
Okay.
Now I'm
There we go.
happy. Look, we are equal
I am here.
opportunists,
Look,
guys.
I got
We are
Ted
equal
Hurst.
opportunists.
We got Caden Barnett. We got Kendall Daniels.
This is a very good draft, by the way. if we got Ted Hurst only in the second, who would be your? I know we have to go. It's been a freaking hour and a half. Who would be your free agent target for wide receiver?
Still Shaheed. I think Hurst would still be the X type of guy, and then Shaheed would be your field stretcher.
Okay. So we have been going for an hour and a half. So you guys want to do short infomercials and then we'll close this thing down?
Yeah. So I
ahead,
can
Owen.
start it off if you guys want. So I'm over at the Weekly Huddle on Twitter, where I did just make my 10th day in a row tweet at Bernie Me into draft Jay Sean Barham. He is my guy for that spot. I know me and Jerry are gonna have our disagreements there, but I also agree that I think that there's gonna be the guy that needs to be that speed rusher. But regardless, over on Twitter at Weekly Huddle, you can see those tweets on YouTube covering different guys, doing some live watch alongs here on YouTube as well as over on Kick, live streaming there. You can always find those playbacks on my Patreon at Weekly Huddle on Patreon.
Randall.
Yeah, you can find me at Randall Slifer on Twitter or Blue Sky. I'll respond to both as much as I can. Mondays, I'm with Do Champions in a Buffalo Bills podcast at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Do Draft Professor, of course, on Tuesdays with these awesome group of guys that we get to talk till the draft comes. And then this Friday, I'll be doing the Macapalooza on Friday night, doing the 3-rounder. If anybody is watching, sign up for the teams. And then on Wednesdays, I'm with Team MBS Media with Bill Carroll and Greg Rector. And it is also another draft show that we go through our top fives, do first-round mocks, and so on and so forth, if you'd like more information about that.
Jerry Ostrowski, you find me at Ostrowski_Big O. I'm on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network with John Feen and Joe Miller. 7 days to Sunday. My show is on Wednesday nights. We do shows every night of the week, including a Sunday night show that kind of wraps up the week. And now that's the off season, normally it's a post game. Also on Locked On Network with Joe Marino and Jeremy White. We do that on Mondays and Thursdays. Do Bill Squad, and then coming up soon, we're going to have a little more Locked On content with Joe Marino. So once I can talk about that, I will. And so yeah, that's what I've been doing. And then on Tuesday nights with these guys, and whenever other times I get on, and excited about this. I'm excited about the big deal coming up in April. We're fired up about that, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, so speaking of which, Epic Mock, April 9th, 10th, and 11th, the Buffalo Bills War Room will be on Jerry's podcast for Thursday and Friday.
You'll find us on the Overreaction Network, so just go over there and we'll be there.
Thank you.
We'll be there.
I was trying to describe the picture, then I realized, wait a second, I have to know the name of the network. So the Overreaction Network.
Overreaction
will
Buffalo
host the
Sports
Bills
Network.
War Room for day 1 and day 2. Randall's Do Champions will hold the War Room for day 3. So again, that's Epic Mock, April 9th, 10th, and 11th. That is a 7-round mock with 32 podcasters drafting against 32 podcasters. So, Jerry, appreciate you offering your podcast to do that. For the 80 podcasters at the Draft Professor, for Randall, Owen, Jerry, and myself, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your Tuesday night, and we'll see you on a podcast again tomorrow.